Well, George, it's homecoming weekend here in 1985. We're at Penn State, and I stopped over to see my friend George Harvey, and also an ex-teacher of mine. I'm trying to remember what year you were my teacher. I think it was 1962. So it's been over 20 years, George. We go back quite a number of years, and I want to just ask you a few questions about your years at Penn State. Your actual position was what at Penn State when you were here?
Well, I was an associate professor in charge of the men's required physical education for the last 17 years, and before that I worked as an instructor and assistant professor and gradually moved up to the associate professor and head of the department of required physical education for men, and that was one of the biggest programs in our college. In fact, one of the biggest programs in the university at the time.
Well,
we averaged about 4,500 students every term or every semester.
Well, I know when I was here, there were a lot of phys ed choices on the program, but the one that I had my sights on was fly tying by George Harvey. Now, I took the course, and I can't say I was a bad student, I can't say I was your best student, but I had a great time. And I know I wasn't the only person in that class. How many students do you think you taught over the years, and how long did the course exist, and does it still exist? Can you give me some facts on all that?
Well, I started I taught the first course back in 1934 when I was still a student, and it was actually the Dean of the College of Agriculture, R.L. Watts. I had taught him to tie flies and to do some fly fishing, and he asked me if I would teach a course in fly tying and casting and fishing and lecture on it, and I said yes. This was when I was a student, and from that time on the courses have been taught. Now, in 1935, I was hired by the College of Agriculture to teach in the forestry school and take charge of their physical education program. I taught all sports there, and I continued to teach fly tying. In fact, it was so popular in the forestry school that we almost had to cut it out because all the students were taking it and tying flies and not studying. So then when I came back on the campus in 1942, started the classes again, as these were extracurricular classes without credit, and in 1948 the demand was so great and so many people wanted to take these courses that we put it in for credit in the College of Health and Physical Education. It was first a true 2-credit course, 3 hours a week, and immediately it was a success. I taught 5 sections at first. At one time I taught 7 sections a week, and then I had to cut it down because it was just too much, because it was an extension course that I had to travel around the state and teach, and that was very popular. So I had to try to, in other words, in order to teach the greatest number of people throughout Pennsylvania, I had to teach on the campus and also on extension work. And over the years, I had, in all my angling classes, I had over 35,000 that I had in classes. I taught, in addition to teaching all the time, from that time on until I retired, from 1948 until 1972, I always had classes on the campus. And during the 50s, for about 9 years, I taught extension classes, and I taught classes in 72 different cities in Pennsylvania. These classes went on for 5 weeks, 3-hour period a night, once a week for 5 weeks. Some of the cities I was back and had as many as 2 and 3 classes in succeeding years. So it was very popular, and it still would be today, but I know I could go out today and start and teach classes every day of the year, but it's just too much. When I retired, I decided to give it up, but I figured I'd paid my dues as far as the angling was concerned, and the people that I taught are now teaching other people, so it's being carried on. And when I retired, I hired Joe Humphreys a couple of years before and took him under my wing and taught him to tie flies, and he took lecture notes, and I gave him all of mine, and he's continued with the classes, but they're not teaching near as many now as we used to. He'll have maybe a couple a semester, maybe 3 or 4 a year at the most, and we used to run 14 classes on the campus during the semester, and then during the term I had to cut down because I was head of the department. At that time I could only teach 2 classes every term, so that would cut down to 6 classes a week.
So you had probably 35,000 students, did you say?
Over 35,000.
Well,
that's
counting
minimum.
me, right?
That's counting you.
All right. I was one of them in there somewhere. So now you've been retired for how many years, George?
I've been retired since 1972. I retired.
Boy, it doesn't seem like it's been over 5 years to me. I don't know. It's just.
Well, it don't seem like it's been any longer than that to me, but because I've been fishing, in fact, it seems to me I'm busier now than I was before when I was working.
I wanted to ask you how many flies that you think you may have tied in your lifetime, and do you still tie on a regular basis, even though that you're retired? Do you tie more or less, or?
I don't tie as many as I used to, but I still probably tie a couple hundred dozen a year. It's relaxing and a hobby, and when I get up in the mornings, I usually go over to fly tying room and maybe tie anywhere from 3 or 4 to sometimes a dozen. And in days when I can't get out to go fishing, when the weather's bad, I might tie as many as a couple dozen. And then when I go to Florida in the winter, I take my fly tying material along, and I tie flies there. I have been tying flies. I don't like to say this, but I have been tying flies for 64 years, and I probably average about 300 dozen a year for 64 years, so you can figure out how many.
I can't figure it out. I'm in that age where you have to figure things out on a calculator. You can't use your head, you need a calculator. Well, I don't think I've ever seen that many flies in my lifetime. So.
Well, I've tied more flies in a year. The most I ever tied was 800 dozen, but that's more flies than most fly tiers will tie in a lifetime.
I've seen you tie a lot of flies myself, and I know that you don't rush your tying techniques. Everything you do is perfected, and if there's one slight hair or hackle that's misplaced, it's no good to you. So I can't imagine tying that many flies and being a perfectionist like that, right? Well, you're not counting the ones that you just kind of put together, but you're not like that. You always have them perfect. When they're finished, they're the best fly of its kind. I'm saying that myself. You don't have to try to brag and agree with that, but you know that's true.
Well, if you don't take pride in your work, I don't think you get the personal satisfaction out of it. I could tie flies a couple dozen an hour and slam them together, but I think that's the reason now that the flies are becoming collector's items, because not being egotistical, but I do have a reputation of tying one of the best dry flies in the country. And when I sell any flies to somebody for shadow boxes or collectors, I want them, when anybody else sees them, that they feel the same way as I do about them, that they're exceptional flies.
Mm-hmm.
And of course the main ingredient in a good fly is the material, and I have always had access to the best material available, even back in the 30s and 40s and through the 50s. I, at one time, was a director of the Phillips Fly and Tackle Company, and we would get necks in from China, and I would get down and sort out the necks in different grades. We'd get maybe 4,000 or 5,000 necks in at a time, and I would get down and sort the necks out, and when I come to an exceptionally good one, I'd throw that off to the side, and that's why...
That was for me, huh?
Yeah, that was an exceptional hackle, and not many people could have ever had the hackle available to them, the tie flies that I had at that time and that I have today.
Well, talking about the materials, it reminded me of a question I wanted to ask you, and I asked you before, but if you can just give me a little bit of a brief history on it again. I know that you had a lot to do with the creation of the final results of the Met's line of quality hackle. I know you were involved in that with Bucky, and I know it's probably the most well-known hackle available today and the best quality. Can you go back and tell me how that kind of started out with you?
Well, I was responsible for... Bucky wouldn't have been in the hackle business now, I'm sure, if it hadn't have been for me. I had, through another friend of mine, I had met Andy Miner out in St. Paul, Minnesota, and he corresponded with me and wanted me to come out, see him. Well, I got out there, and I had to sit at the fly tying desk for a couple days to show him everything that I knew about it, and he had been tying flies for years, but I had different techniques that he wanted to learn. Finally, one time I approached him and I said, how about some of the eggs for your birds? And I said, I have a friend that raises chickens, and I can get him to raise these birds, and so we'd have enough to tie our own flies. And he was the only one that I knew that raised blue dun birds besides Darby up on the Beaver Kill. And so finally he agreed to give me 12 dozen eggs. And I took Bucky out, and Bucky didn't know the man or knew anything about him. And I took him out and I got the eggs and I gave them to Bucky to raise, and that's how the bird started.
Well, what kind of amount of necks does he produce today on his birds? Do you have any? I know he really has a lot out there in the market.
He's captured the world market, and he has done a lot of his breeding of the birds. He has improved the hackle probably 75% over what it was when Andy Miner had it. I mean, the quality of hackle. And the male bird, just counting the male birds alone, he capes out, and this year he will sell over 60,000. They're not cheap. They retail at around $49.50 a piece for the first grade. There's 3 grades of them. The lowest grade is around $30, and so it's turned out to be a pretty good business. I just wish I had a chunk of it myself now.
Well, I think you have a lot more than money can buy with the knowledge that you have on trout fishing and fly tying. That's another thing I meant to ask you. I'm going to ask you now. When you were I was going to say my age. I still consider myself young. But when you were a young man, how did you learn the things that people are learning today by listening to things that the experts tell them, and reading magazines and watching films and taking instruction like I did from you? Who was your teacher, and how did you pick up everything?
I never had anybody to teach me anything about fly tying. I picked it all up myself. I never had a book until I don't believe I had a book on fly tying until after I was out of college and teaching the course. I learned it by the first fly, actually, that I tied. I took and tore apart an English wet fly, and I thought the hackle on the fly was hair, and I had little hooks, and I was trying to tie hair on. In fact, I cut hair off our cat and off the dog and tried to tie it on, but I couldn't make it stick out. And finally, my father had a few old flies, and I took one of them, took it apart, and I found out it was a chicken feather. And my uncle was in the meat business, had a butcher shop, and he used to dress all his own chickens. Well, as soon as I found out it was hackle, I went down on Thursdays. He used to dress the birds out for the weekend, and I'd get down and we cut the heads off, and I kept all the heads off all the chickens and skinned the hackle out, or skinned the neck out, and that's how I got the first hackle as far as flies were concerned. But as far as fishing is concerned, I never had anybody really teach me anything about it. It was just something that I picked up over the years. And
well, let me put you on the spot. Do you think you learn anything when you go out now, or do you think you know it all?
If I thought I knew everything about it now, I'd quit fishing.
Well, I told you before, one of the most frustrating things for me is I really like to learn as much as I can. And when I come and visit you and find out how little I know, because every time I come here I learn new things, I guess I have to just continue to improve. Just throw me a little bit of knowledge every time, that's all I ask.
Well, I'll tell you, some people have eyes and they can't see. Some people have brains in their head and they don't use them. And anybody that goes out on a stream and doesn't learn something every day he's out, there's something wrong. And actually, most fishermen that I have seen that have fished for a number of years, I'd say 95% of them, they think that they've had these many years of experience. And all they've actually had is the first year's experience repeated over and over and over, and they never seem to ever improve. So if you don't try to improve every time you're out, you never can really reap the satisfaction that you would get if you do become more proficient.
Well, could you give me, just for the record, a couple suggestions on, for instance, tackle and approaching the stream? I know it's difficult just to say what kind of flies you would use, but I know you have a few top favorite flies. Just mention that and tell me what things most people make mistakes in when they're approaching streams and the tackle that they use, and what are a couple good suggestions on how to really improve your fishing?
Well, I would say number one, that you've got, before you can become a proficient fly fisherman, you've got to first learn to cast. And I had to learn the hard way, and it took me a long time. But the quickest way you can learn to cast is to hire some good caster, and there's a lot of excellent casters today. That Lefty Cray is one of the best. He's probably taught more people to cast than anybody else in the country. But to get a good instructor and let him teach you. Now, he can't teach you to fish, but unless you can cast well enough to present the fly the way it should be presented, you're never going to learn. I know people that have fished all their life and they can't cast as good as a 3-year-old can cast if you take them out and give them the proper instruction. After that, you should have good balanced equipment, and it does not have to be expensive. You can buy equipment, a good rod, reel, and line, even at today's high prices for less than $100, and you can catch as many fish with that type of an outfit as you can if you paid $1,000 for the same thing. I mean, the rod, reel, and line. Then after that, the most important part of your equipment, as far as I'm concerned, when you're fishing a dry fly, is the leader. And you've got to have the leader built so that you can cast slack into the terminal end of the leader. So when it falls on the water, it falls in a series of S curves. So this allows the fly to float down naturally by the time the current pulls those S's out of the leader and straightens it out. And for dry fly fishing, anybody that learns that cannot fail to catch trout. That is by far the most important. With wet fly fishing, streamers or bucktails, or nymph fishing, this is not important. However, when you're fishing a wet fly upstream, I still try to cast it so that I get a good slack leader in it. But when you're fishing streamers or bucktails or anything down, you're going to have drag doesn't important because you're fishing these flies underneath the surface. Then, of course, you need a selection of flies. I can fish any place all over the United States with less than 10 flies. And if I had to select 10, I'd take these sizes in size from 10 down to size 20. And I would pick the Adams, the Gordon Quill, the Sulphur, the light Cahill, the dark Cahill, the ginger quill, and then I would take a stonefly nymph, I'd take 3 colors of nymphs, a black, one with a yellow body, and one a brownish colored nymph. And with those flies right there, and one more,
wait, let me take a guess. You got me.
The deer hair ant, and with those flies, you can fish any place in the United States and take trout.
I was waiting for that deer hair ant. You
Yeah.
saved the best to last because I know my son saw you tie those, and he went home and tied about a dozen. Unfortunately, the next day he had school, and I took 3 of them, and I went out in the stream, and I caught about 10 trout on them. They get torn up pretty good, but just like you mentioned, the rattier they get, the more chewed up they get, they seem to work just as well. The trout take them anyway.
Sometimes work better when they're all...
Well, I'll tell you, I would like to try to see if we can film a little bit up in your fly tying room. I know I've been up there a lot, and I'm fortunate in that respect, and there's people that probably never will see it. And just to see you tie a few of these flies on film would be a real satisfying treat for me and anybody else that sees this. Do you think we could take a walk up there and look around for a few minutes?
I think you can. If you get that fly tying room, it's the only one in the country. People have been here from all over the United States, and they all tell me they've never seen a setup for fly tying like I have. So it's a result of collecting material for, as I said, 64 years. I hate to tell you that again, but that's how long I've been collecting material, and I have some of it up there that probably material that's over 60 years old now.
Well, I'll shut this camera off. We'll take a walk upstairs, and I'll have to set up a few light bulbs. We'll see if we can get it on film.
Okay.
Well, we're inside the house, and George is looking over a wall filled with some memorable photographs of his years of... I see a familiar face right there at the top. I remember I asked you what you thought of our president, Jimmy Carter, and you said that he was a darn good fisherman, but you aren't going to give me any comment on whether you would support him politically or not, but he was a good fisherman.
I have voted for him every time. I'd vote for him again. I wish he would run right now. I'd sooner see him if he was the president now. If he was the president now, I don't think we'd have some of the problems that we have today.
Well,
and he's a real good fisherman, and so is Rosalind Carter. In fact, about 6 weeks ago, I spent a morning with Rosalind Carter and helping her get back again to where she was a few years ago. And she stood in one place after I got her leader adjusted right and caught 19 trout and never moved. In fact, she beat Jimmy that morning.
Really?
And he only caught 10, so she was really happy. And that's a picture of her there, that little one on the wall.
Can you go over and just point out a few of the...
This is a 22-inch trout that she caught.
Oh, okay.
That's a native fish. Here's a little wooden thing with my name on that Jimmy Carter made for me. He has flies.
I remember seeing that when you received it, because you know I'm in the leather business, and I saw that letter, and you said Jimmy was involved in. All right, now that's I'm shooting in on Lefty.
Yeah, here's Lefty Craig. He's one of the best casters I know of, and he's a great teacher. And
next to that, you have Jimmy over on the other side of your room, which will film in a few minutes at your fly tying bench.
They're sitting there. That's the Carter family there.
Well, Don, I'm looking at Joe Humphreys watching you.
Yeah, well, that's a big trout. I located that trout. I found it, and I was going to get back and catch it, but I was afraid to fish at night for fear I'd fall, so I took Joe up and showed him where it was. And
what was the size? I know that's the state record in brown.
I forget, it's about 32 inches or 3 inches long and weighed, I think, 15 pounds, 6 ounces, or 16 pounds.
What did he catch it on? That's what I want to know.
Caught it on a big night fly.
Night fly?
Yeah.
Who tied it?
Well, he tied it. I showed him. I showed him how to tie it.
It's the fly with the curled out
That's right.
wings, the Harvey night fly.
That's right.
So you didn't want to say it, but I knew what it was.
It was a fly.
Let's see, what else you have? I saw...
Well, here's this picture over here of the trout on. Somebody gave that to Rosalind Carter when we were fishing out in West Yellowstone. They were out with my wife and I, spent a week with us in West Yellowstone, and somebody brought that up and gave it to her, and they were on the way to China, and so she gave it to me. So I kind of have that hanging up there too. But
well, there's a lot of awards up here, and I know you could talk all day on what you could remember when you look at these pictures, because they say what, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I'd like to see you tie a few flies, so maybe we'll move over and get you tying a few flies for us, okay? Well, on the other side of the wall, the other side of George's room, you can see the organization here of all his materials for fly tying. I'm just shooting around here, George, before I ask you any questions. I'm shooting on the wall with all your bobbins and your desk, and your scrap catcher, and what I'm looking at now are boxes that are all labeled, and every one of those boxes contains what's written on the outside. I'm looking at a number 16 caddis, Cahill, Gordon quill, all the different patterns you have organized in your boxes. More materials. Those are glass jars. Do you put mothballs inside the jars at all, George?
No, you don't have to.
You don't have to?
As long as they don't have any moths in to start with, and I've never had a moth in any of my fly tying material and since I've been 10 years old, so I have never had a problem at all. But I do keep some mothballs in some of these larger drawers, but I don't really believe it's necessary. These are all full of flies over here too. They're just a box full. You might see, you know what that fly is.
Yeah.
That's a green drake. These are all full of flies over here, all different kinds.
Well, I just wanted to ask you, there's another president here I see. You were saying how many years you've been tying flies. Well, you've gone through a couple presidents too. There's a different one on the wall. It's not Carter, but it's Eisenhower. That was the first president you really took out fishing, wasn't it? Or
well,
not?
I only took 2 out, and that was in 1952. That's Milton Eisenhower. He was president of the university at the time, and he liked to fish, and in fact he had called me out of class to take him fishing, and sometimes I really didn't like that, but I had no choice in the matter. And then when before Ike Eisenhower was president, after Milton was here, he sent some flies down to him, and after that he got me to tie all of his flies, and I tied flies for both Milton and Ike for many years.
Was Ike a pretty good fisherman?
Ike was an excellent fisherman. Milton had never fished fly very much, but he got so that he was fair.
Mm-hmm.
And but he liked to. The thing I couldn't break him from. He always wanted to get big fish to bring back home, and I liked to release them, and I hated to kill the big ones, but he wanted to bring the big trout home all the time, and he did bring some tremendous fish back. But there's There's a lot of fond memories going back.
I'm looking behind you as I photograph, and there's a young lady up there tying a fly. Who's that young lady?
Well, that was my daughter. She was tying wing dry flies and wet flies when she was 3 years old. And that picture was taken by Life magazine photographers when they did come down here and did a 3-page spread on this fly tying back in the early 50s.
I thought women were just supposed to have babies and cook and wash dishes. I always get in trouble when I say that with my wife. My wife is not a fisherman, but my son is, and I wish she fished a little bit more. But she's nice enough to let me use my time up to fish, because I told her when we got married that fishing was going to be #1 and she was going to be #2, and she seemed to accept that. Not easily, but she still accepts it. When I want to fish, she lets me go.
Well, I'm glad that I have a chance to come back now. You said your wife wasn't a fisherman. Well, I'm glad she wasn't a fisherman, because
Fisherwoman.
you'd have a hard time having...
Well, wouldn't have a son to fish with, right?
Fisherette.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, I'm going to shut this off, and we're going to get down to some serious tying, all right?
Okay.
George, we're at your bench. You're ready to give us what we really want to find out. This is what the ultimate test is on fishing, is to present it with a fly that you've made yourself and catch fish. So what are you going to tie for us today?
Well, we'll tie one of the most enjoyable hatches to fish here in Pennsylvania, not only here, but any place where the green drake, that's Ephemerella gutulata, the scientific name, and it's found all over the East, and you have some of the subspecies or other species that are found out in the West. I've fished green drake hatches out on the Madison River. Now this first material for tail, I like it. That's a skunk tail. I like it because it's good and stiff fibers, and it'll support the fly up, and you try to take and even up the ends here a little bit so that they're the right consistency. Then you take, and here's one of the important things in fly tying. Take, when you grasp anything, have the tips of your fingers together so that you can open them up like that with a V, and then close them so that you can hold that material tight when you tie it in. Now I squeeze it tight, and I just take and tie it in until I have it. Then I run the tying thread back to the bend of the hook, and I hold the tail to keep it perfect so that it's set right on top. Then I bring the thread up to the front, a little more than 1/4 of the distance back from the eye of the hook, and then I take, this is part of a calf tail. This is the yellow from a calf tail that's dyed fluorescent, for this fly has a light colored wing. And we take it and hold it the same way as we did the tail, take and tie it in up here at the front, take enough turns around, and once you get used to it, you can whip that around there pretty fast. You've got to notice how I hold the bobbin with the thumb on the thread so that I can take it up or release it as I want to. Never hold the bobbin in your hand like this. Hold it out here at the end, because you see how fast I can move and tie when it's out near the end. If I have it in my hand, I got to take the whole hand around, which cuts down and on your speed, and also if you hold it in your hands, you'll break a lot of thread. Then you just take and separate the wings. Now I've tied so many flies that I don't have to take and look very much. I just feel it, and I know that I have about the same number of fibers on each side. I take and go around a figure 8 around both sides till I have them set up at the right angle. And then what I do, I always take a solution here that's made from shoe glue and toluene, and I cut it down the consistency of lacquer. I don't use lacquer anymore at all. I take a piece of yarn here, and a lot of people take and tie the whole thing. So I get a neater fly. I take and separate the fibers so I only have 2 strands, and then I start winding. You notice if I'm winding from the left to right, I take it over the top with the right hand, pick it up underneath with the left, and keep each right wrap tight against the preceding one till I get up here, and I leave a little space about 1/16 of an inch back of the wings, and I take and put another little drop. I want the flies secured so they're never going to come apart. This is much better than lacquer because it's actually a rubber solution. Now I'm going to take 2 hackle here, and I'm going to leave the one. The stem or the quill of the hackle of this one is a little longer than the other. That's going to be the one that I wrap last. Now here's a new trick that I just found out. You asked me if I ever learned anything new. I've been tying flies for 60 years, and I just found out the other day, fooling around here, that if I take and pull a hackle out and hold it to the front like that, then I won't get near as many fibers of the hackle sticking out. Then I take the hackle and start there to wind. Now I've had a lot of people ask me about this. This is a clothespin. When I started tying flies over 60 years ago, I didn't have enough money to buy hackle pliers, so I made them out of wooden clothespins. And this hackle plier here is probably 55 or 60 years old. I've had so many people come in here that see them, and they always ask me for a pair of them. I used to have dozens of them. I think the only ones that has any of the original ones, Lefty Cray and Joe Humphreys, I gave them one of the originals. And then I take this second hackle and pull the fibers forward, take enough turns around behind to keep the fibers, and you want the fibers to stand out so they're perpendicular to the shank of the hook. And then you take and hold the wings back and wind everything right up close to the front. And then we take and finish it off, keep everything up tight. Now there's something that a lot of people would get all shook up if they happened. The reason why I cut that off is because I have a little eye problem and I can't see very well. As you can see, I didn't see where that thread was. I was just guessing. But I've tied so many flies that I can almost tie them without looking. And I did get 1 or 2 fibers left. So there's what the finished fly looks like, and you see it's not too bad for somebody that's half blind.
Yeah, I'll tell you, you have my sympathy. If I could tie a fly like that with my 2 good eyes, oh, that's great.
That's all it takes.
Now, when is that going to be used? Predominantly, the hatch comes at what time of the year?
Right in our locale here, it comes on usually the 27th to the 30th of May. And it's almost exact every year. It could be due to weather conditions and geographical locations, could be a week or 10 days early or a week or 10 days late. But 95% of the time it'll be on within 1 or 2 days, in the 27th of May in central Pennsylvania.
I'll tell you, I was just thinking of a way to end this film. You know the way to end this film. So I'm going to have to come back at the end of May, and I want to see you cast that fly out on the water. I want you to prove to me that it really works.
Yeah, it works.
Well, you think I could ever get you on film fishing, George?
Well,
that's asking too much.
You see, I'm expecting to catch a few.
I guess so.
Lose a few.
You mean you actually lose flies? I know.
Yeah.
I saw you hook a branch one time on the other side of the stream. You remember that day down at Spruce?
Yeah, I lose them every once in a while.
You also can cast about 6 foot under a branch too. I've seen that too.
Yeah.
Well, that was
you lose some. I lose. I left 3 or 4 flies in fish last week. I was using too light a stuff for the size of fish that I had hooked, and
well, you're gonna have to hook smaller fish.
yeah, they ran back under the banks and brush and broke me off. But I was using lighter stuff than I normally use.
Well, when you fish, I didn't ask you this question. When you fish dry flies, do you usually fish one, or do you fish a dropper wet? I know I've seen you fish with a wet dropper. And
no, not with. If I'm fishing dry fly, I just use one fly. Mm-hmm. Now, maybe on a rare occasion, I might have been fishing a cast of 2 wet flies, and I saw a fish taking a dry off the surface, and I might have tied a dry fly on the end and fished it, but I normally wouldn't fish that way. That'd be a rare thing. Maybe once in a million times I'd ever fish a dry fly with a wet fly on, because it wouldn't float right.
That's what I wondered. That was a long time ago in the spring when we went down. I think they had a few fellas down there fishing at the Rod and Gun Club at Spruce. Spruce is your favorite stream.
Well, I like it because there isn't so much competition, but I fish all the streams. In fact, I get tired fishing down there, and I go to the open streams, and I fished this year. I fished Young Woman's Creek, Fishing Creek. I fished Laurel Run. I fished about 10 other different streams this year in Pennsylvania. I fished only one in New York, up in the Ausable, up at Lake Placid a couple weeks ago. And but that stream's a little too tough for me now. It's so rocky that I can't wade it.
Well, one of these days we're going to have to get you down to New Jersey. You keep saying you're coming down. We have to get you tied up with one of those 8 or 10 pound blues on the fly rod.
I know what they're like. I never caught an 8 or 10 pounder, but I caught 4 to 6 pounders, and they're a great fish on a fly rod.
Well, I appreciate the time you've given to me here to try my camera out and to see what kind of results we have. I'll be anxious to go to the Penn State West Virginia game tomorrow, but I'll be anxious Sunday when I get home to plug this in the TV and see what we have turned out.
Yeah, okay.
All right, George, I appreciate it. Thanks, and have a good homecoming.
All right, same to you. That's a pretty scene.
Well, this is the day after the Penn State West Virginia homecoming game, and on the way home I stopped by to say hello to Joe Humphreys, that happened to be home, and he showed me something that he had just received, and it's kind of amazing and be kind of great to see on film. Joe, you have something there. You said you have an old fish, and I can't believe this, so I had to get it on film. It's something that...
Chuck, let me tell you about this fish. You know, I didn't catch this one yesterday. This fish is 40 million years old. Came out of a digging in Wyoming. A gentleman by the name of George Trimble gave me this, who was one of the past vice presidents of Exxon, and who went with Reynolds and brought their oil business back on its feet. He's a close friend of mine, and this was a gift from him to me. And this was written up. This digging was written up in National Geographic. This is in the August '85 issue. And this thermal explosion happened so fast, it just froze everything in time, like this big fish engulfing a smaller one. So I think it's rather phenomenal that this masterpiece was found, and they're so perfectly preserved. Every little rib, every little fiber in the fins, the tooth, the eye, just almost a perfect fish.
That is amazing.
Very few of these. So here I am along a trout stream.
Now, is that a native or a stockfish?
I believe you'd call that a real native.
That's a real native.
That has to be a real native.
Well, that's great.
Here we are along this beautiful little trout stream, looking at the present and the past here at the same time.
It is.
Isn't that true?
It's a real great comparison.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I have a rod in my truck. I think I'm going to say goodbye in a little while, and I'm going to head downstream. And I know the fish are spawning, so I'm not going to fish too long, but I just want to loosen up for about the half hour on the way home.
Well, you can do that. What a better way to
All right, Jay. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Chuck.
I'm on Wayne Harpster's property. This is probably one of the premier streams. What is that? Oh, that's a bird downstream. Duck or something. Man, that can't be a trout coming up that far down. We're on Spruce Creek. It's got to be one of the best streams in the east. Most of it's posted. This is private property. And I wanted to stop down and just film a little bit of the water. I remember being here once before. As a matter of fact, this hole right here, we stood on this bank. It had to be 7 or 8 years ago. I was down here with George Harvey, and I watched him throw out a dry fly in this hole here and pull out 6 trout in about 15 minutes. I recognize this tree branch hanging over the water. Right upstream is the cabin that Wayne has available. He decided to make it available to fly fishermen. I'll go up later and get a better shot of it, but he charges a fee, and this is a giant cabin. It could sleep quite a few guys. And included with the cabin is the rights to fly fish this area of Spruce Creek. I think it's about 1.5 miles, and it's just loaded with native brown trout. And I'd like to trade this camera in right now for my fly rod. But I'm headed downstream. I'm going to fish a little bit further down where Spruce Creek dumps into the Juniata before I get home today. I just left Joe Humphrey's house, and we were on Spruce Creek, or Spring Creek there, which is more well known since it's more accessible to fishermen, and that has a history of its own. But Spruce Creek is probably one of the best native brown trout streams in Pennsylvania for sure, and maybe the east. I'll walk upstream and film the house, and we're going to come, I think, next spring and stay for a few days. And there's a trout right here, working in front of the hole, directly in front of the cabin. Wayne has available for people. Where is it? I lost it. I just saw one that had to go 5 pounds. Let me see if I can find it in here. There it is. Nice brown trout, real nice. I'd like to see it come up and take something. It's just waiting in a little feeding station here. Boy, I'll tell you, this water makes me itchy. The hole right in front of it, right directly off the porch here of the cabin. Where is that trout? I can't see it now. There it is. There it is. I think he has his name, my name on his tail, so I'll have to remember that when I come back here. Oh, he's moving up a little bit. Boy, this is just fantastic. Loaded this big trout. Oh, there's a pair of them. They're working. They're in there spawning, I guess. Yeah, 2 of them there. Male and a female. Beautiful, beautiful. Oh. So up in the stream. Well, I probably wouldn't be too mad if I was locked in this cabin for about 3 weeks and forced to fish every day. It wouldn't break my heart a bit. There's one coming up. I fell into that big pool. Well, here's a shot of the cabin. It's actually, I don't know if you want to call it a cabin, it's enormous inside. Probably feed about 20 guys in there in the kitchen. But the stream is right smack in front of the place. And I'm really looking forward to coming up here and spending some days next spring. Let's go upstream a piece and check out some of the water right above the cabin. My, there's a half a dozen trout in here spawning. I just spooked them a little bit. But I think if I zoom in, you can spot them. There's one there. Let's see. One more. They just lined up in there. It's hard to spot them with the rocks. You can see that one. But this is all nice looking water. I'm going to walk upstream, check underneath that little fall to see what we have right up there. There's an enormous trout right in front of that log. He's getting spooked a little bit. They're chasing each other around. They're in their spawn orchard. But look at the size of that trout. My God, that has to be 6 or 7 pounds. Oh. Right, my leader. Look at that. Look at those boys just lined up in there. See if I can get a little bit closer. There's another one. There he is. They're paired up. Keep spawning, guys. Keep that species going. That's why this is fly fishing. Release all you catch. That's the way to go. There will always be fish available for fishermen in the future. That is a beautiful fish. I'm trying to walk up slowly and creep up on this guy, see if I can get him better on film. I don't want to, watch where I'm walking, so I'm walking upstream. Where'd they go? Oh, there it is. There it is. I don't know what the white spot is on this thing. Oh, that's a tag. I can't really like that. Loaded right where the Aries falls. Just before I put the camera on, when I jumped out of the water about 2 feet from the fly. See if I can spot my trout. One from down below. No, it's not it, but like even on the same thing the other one. It's just all has to be loaded. This is above that little fall, and I just scooped about 3 or 4 out of here. Going on the other side of the stream. There's a bridge right here. I think I'm going to go up on this bridge and see if I can shoot down in the water. I just spotted a couple right next to this bank. See if I can sneak up on them. Get them on film. There's a sucker out there. One sucker, where is trout? There it is. There it is, laying right in there. That's a big trout too. Both of them. There they go. Well, I'm standing on the bridge now. You can just see a couple trout right there just lined up like cord, but look at the size of that one. I don't know if this reflection off the water is bothering the footage or not, but the place is just loaded with trout. I'm going to zoom in on the other part of the stream here, right below this overhanging tree. And you can see the cabin is right here. Beautiful grounds. Just great. Now, I didn't know if I could get close enough. There's fish just lined up under this tree like cordwood. There must be 8 or 10 of them in there. Now there's a few of them that are suckers, but a lot of them are big brown trout. There's one way down there. Where is it? There he goes. Look at the size of that one, just swimming right across there. That's got to be 5 to 6 pounds. I'll use too much film here. I'm getting too excited. I'm going to get out of here before I'm tempted to grab my rod. I'll just have to wait until I get back here and fish Spruce Creek. I'm looking forward to a few days at this cabin because this looks like fantastic fishing to me. Every place I go, I see a bigger fish. I don't know if you'll be able to spot this one, but it is a big fish. You see him in there? That is a trout right there. That's over 5 pounds. It's hard to get a relationship the size of that fish, but it is a big fish. I wish it would move a little bit so I can get a better shot from it. I'm kind of hiding behind this tree here, trying to peek out on it. That's a big fish. Well, when I die and go to heaven, I hope this is what it's like. When I get up to those gates, I want to see this sign on the front of them. Fish for fun. Fly fishing. Heaven, here I come. Kind of startled me there, pal. Oh, I'm just sitting here on the banks of Penn's Creek. It's kind of a famous trout stream in this neck of the woods. Let me introduce myself. I'm Red Neckman. I'm just sitting here with my trusty old fishing rod and my companion here, Red Man. It's about all you need when you're fishing on the banks of Penn's Creek, plus a little cup here to spit into. Just have to take a little pinch of this here every once in a while. Well, maybe a little later. First, we're going to experiment here and see what kind of a stream we have here. We're going to do a little thing they call reading the stream. Entomologists suggest this for you old fishermen so you know what kind of bait to concentrate on. Here we go. Esophagus cornelius. Just as I figured. Penn's Creek is known for its great hatch of green drake on Memorial Day, but in trout season, the first weekend, there's a little known hatch. And this is what we're going to concentrate on today. You have to match your bait to the insect that you find in the stream. And just try to get this on camera. You can see that this is one of those nymphatic stages. I think these are the yellow nymphomaniacs. After they emerge and get crushed, as they surface to the water, they turn into more of a cream corn. Well, let's see if we have a fly to match this. I'm looking in the fly box here. I tied something up on a short shank number 16. Oh yes, there it is. That's the fly we want to use today. Yeah. That's the fly that's going to get the fish today. Well, I hope this streamside tip helped you out. One more thing before I leave. A little trick that I learned when I was a youngster. When you're fishing and you want to know whether you're getting a bite or not, don't look at your rod tip. Anybody can do that. Break yourself off a little hickory stick and put it on your line. When the old trout pulls, that old stick will do a little jitterbug, and you know right then and there, you just grab your rod and you just run up the hill as fast as you can and just jerk that trout right out of the water. You don't want to fight him because he could fall off. Just drag him right up on the bank. Well, nice talking to you. Stop by again sometime. This is Redneck saying so long, and don't forget your main companion, Redman.
doing, Red? How's the fishing?
Well, how you doing? This is Red Neckman here. I'm on my lunch break. I've been doing some patching up above, but I got all my minnows here and my night crawlers, and I'm on my lunch break now. A little tip I'd like to share with you today. You saltwater fishermen, you know what I'm talking about. The best way to get fish is to troll. And when you got yourself a little vehicle here, this is a Johnson outboard inside. You get yourself a little umbrella rig here for the trout.
Let me zoom in on that, Red.
Yeah, this is a special rig. You see the two grappling hooks on the side. You just put your rod in your holder here, and you cast her out. You jump on your machine. You just troll up and down the street here. Make sure you got a road close enough to the stream. In case you got a few trees here in the road, you got your heavy-duty dispatcher here. You could just roll over those suckers, clear yourself a path, and troll up and down here with this here grappling hook. I'll probably snag a couple suckers, but we eat them too. We'll get some nice brownies today because they really go for this outfit here. So just remember, when you're still fishing, that's fine. But when you got yourself a trolling rig, you got a much better chance to hook the fish. Well, this is Red Neckman. I want to do some fishing. My lunch break's already over. I'll see you later. Howdy, buddy.
How you doing, Red?
I want to give you another tip. I told you how to read the stream bank a minute ago. Well, this is a favorite hole of mine. And I can tell you whether there's trout in it or not because I have a little gadget that I used that a lot of you guys can put in your own areas. And I'm telling you, when you want to do some gigging with your pitchforks and stuff, you can see those trout laying in there, stick those things on them, pull them out. I'm telling you, it's an easy way to fish. But you got to have this one little thing. First, you need a big tree like this, a nice strong tree, right next to a good fishing hole. Let me just throw my little walking stick aside. You just follow that tree branch up. Send one of your kids up here. Don't do it yourself. You let them tie this little unit up here. This is my observation tower. I saw these guys one time on TV in these big fancy fishing boats. They were sitting way up on top looking for whales and tuna and stuff. This is kind of the freshwater version. Get yourself a rope here on the tree above your favorite hole. You wonder, what the heck's in that hole? Well, all you have to do is just swing up over the hole like this. You look in, you say, man, that place is loaded with fish. Get yourself a pitchfork, swing out again, yam a couple of them. They're right there. You know it because you can see it. Well, I'll tell you, you probably never heard this tip before, and I'm sharing it with you. Now, this is Red Neckman. I'll be just hanging around. See y'all.
Hey, Red, what are you doing today?
Howdy, buddy. You're here again, huh?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Well, I broke the weight off my fishing line and got to find me a nice can here. I use them a different way. Maybe I'll just show you here a little bit later, help you out. You could use the same technique. It works for me all the time.
All right. All right. What's that you got on your chest?
Oh, that's another trick I have. It works every time. You know, this is an old fishing license. I stole off of some guy's vest a couple years ago, his chest. It's a great way to keep them far from you, believe me.
That's what I thought. I didn't think you bought a license.
No way. Hey, listen, I think I got a can here. I'm going to hook it up to my line. Why don't you walk up here and I'll give you some tips on how to fish today.
All right, let's go.
Let me show you that tin can technique I was telling you about a minute ago. You guys that want to fish a little bit deeper have to add those split shot on all the time and add weight on. With my technique, first you get yourself a little can. What I usually do is take an old can I have left over from when I finished using my cord. I like to toss them in the woods, but when you need a weight, you got to keep one. Pull on the side of the can, tie your line onto it. You got yourself an automatic sinker. The good thing about this can is you don't have to add split shot. You want to fish deeper? You get yourself some more stone. You load that baby up, it'll go right down to the bottom where the fish can land. Another
had a vending machine in there. And there was all kinds of choices for people to make out of that vending machine. And I learned that lesson. I applied it to my trout fishing. People say, what's your favorite bait, Red? I say, I don't know. I use a variety of things. Just like that vending machine, there's not one candy bar in there. They have a little bit of everything. Then they have a spot in there where they have something that you don't even know what it is. You just push a button and you take the chances. So we've got our weight on here. Cut yourself a good stiff rod off, because if you get more than 2 or 3 trout on at the same time, you've got to have some weight behind it to hoist them out. You got your weight here. Get yourself a series of hooks. I don't know what they're biting on today, but I'm ready for anything. I got cheese here on the bottom hook. I got a piece of chipped ham on here. I got a slice of bread. I like to use the end. I get those tougher, meaner fish. You get those funny looking fish that eat the middle of the bread. I like those tough ones. And I got a potato on here. So you're asking me what they're gonna hit on? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna find out, and when I do, I'm gonna put the same thing on every hook. And hey, if I don't get any fish today, I'll just break for lunch, because I got a ham and cheese sandwich and a baked potato. I don't have to catch fish to eat. I can eat my bait. Hey, I'll see you now. I hope this helped you out. This is Red Neckman saying so long for now. Well, I told you this technique works, boys. Take my word for it. This is Red Neckman giving you some more hints on how to catch fish. Nice, ain't it?
Yes, sir.